Blue lights flashed in her rear-view mirror, turning the teal paint of her brand-new luxury sedan into alternating shades of regret and resignation. Dr. Nia Harrell's hands found the steering wheel at 10 and 2, a position she'd learned not in driver's ed, but in the same place every black person learns it, from parents who've had this conversation too many times. The radio was still playing. She'd been humming along 30 seconds ago, finally relaxed after a shift that had started yesterday morning. Now, watching two officers approach with a particular expression she recognized instantly, she knew what was coming. She'd earned every penny of that car, but in the next 5 minutes, she'd have to prove she deserved to sit in it. Comment below if you've ever had to prove you belong somewhere you've already earned the right to be. This story is for you. Let's go back 20 minutes. Nia was walking out of Mercer Hospital, exhausted in the way that only a 14-hour surgery can create. Her scrubs were still on under her jacket. Her feet ached, but she'd saved a life today, removed a tumor from a man's brain stem that 3 other surgeons had called inoperable. He'd wake up tomorrow and see his grandchildren. That made the exhaustion worth it. The teal sedan waited in the hospital parking garage, gleaming under fluorescent lights. She bought it 3 weeks ago after her promotion to chief of neurosurgery, youngest person to ever hold a position at Mercer. The car wasn't a frivolous purchase. It was a statement to herself that she'd made it. Medical school debt, still 6 figures. Student loans, another decade of payments. But she'd earned this one thing that was purely for joy. Teal, because it was her mother's favorite color. Luxury, because after sleeping on hospital couches for a decade, she wanted comfort. Electric, because she believed in the future. She'd worked since 4 a.m. Friday. It was now Saturday afternoon. All she wanted was to drive home with the windows down, music up, and feel like a normal person for 20 minutes. The drive down Peachtree Avenue was perfect for exactly 18 minutes. Then came the red light, the routine stop, and then the sirens that made her heart sink, not with panic, but with bone-deep weariness. She knew this script by heart. She pulled over smoothly, muscle memory taking over. Park. Hazards on. Hands on the wheel. Engine running. Wait. 2 officers approached, one on each side of the vehicle, and their body language told a story before they spoke. Suspicious. Already forming conclusions. Eyes scanning the interior, the leather seats, the digital dashboard, the iPad mounted near the console. License and registration. Not a question. A command. Nia kept her voice even, professional. Good morning, officers. Is there a problem? No answer. Just an extended hand waiting for documents. She retrieved them from her purse carefully, slowly, narrating each movement. I'm reaching into my bag now for my wallet. Handed them over. The first officer studied her license far longer than necessary, comparing the photo to her face multiple times. The second circled her car like a detective at a crime scene, peering through windows, running his hand along the hood, examining the temporary tags. She heard the radio chatter, quiet but distinct. Request for backup. For a traffic stop with no traffic violation. Then came the question that shifted everything. Ma'am, whose car is this? Nia's hands tightened on the steering wheel. It's mine. A pause. An exchange of glances between the officers that spoke volumes. And how did you acquire it? There it was. The real question underneath. How can you afford this? Nia breathed slowly, pushing down the anger that wanted to rise. Stay calm. Don't give them a reason. Just answer. I purchased it. I work at Mercer Hospital. The officer's eyebrow raised. What do you do there? The assumption was clear as day. Cafeteria worker, maybe. Janitorial staff, possibly. Certainly not what she was about to say. Nia reached slowly for her purse again. I'm going to get my hospital ID. It's in the front pocket of my bag. Every movement deliberate. Every action announced. Because she knew that one wrong move, one gesture misinterpreted, could turn this encounter into a tragedy instead of just an indignity. If this is hitting home, hit that like button. Because what happens next is both infuriating and all too familiar. She pulled out her hospital badge, the laminated card she wore every day, the one that gave her access to operating rooms and administrative meetings. She handed it to the officer, watched him read it once, then again. Dr. Nia Harrell, Chief of Neurosurgery. Her photo, her credentials, Mercer Hospital's seal. Undeniable. The officer's expression shifted, not to shame exactly, but to recalibration. He handed the badge to his partner, who examined it with the same scrutiny, as if the plastic card itself might be fraudulent, might be borrowed, might be anything other than what it clearly stated. A third patrol car pulled up, lights swirling. The backup that had been called. But now the sergeant waved them off with a quick gesture that said, "False alarm. Stand down, we're good here." Except they weren't good. They'd never been good. The first officer returned to Nia's window, handed back her license, registration, and badge. His voice had changed, suddenly formal, suddenly respectful. Dr. Harrell. The title deployed only now that it had been proven. We're sorry for the inconvenience. Just a routine check. Nia accepted her documents, slipped her badge back into her purse. Routine, she repeated quietly. Not a question. Just acknowledgement of the lie. They both knew it was. The officers stepped back. No ticket issued. No warning given. No explanation offered for what exactly had triggered this routine check on a bright Saturday afternoon. Just the unspoken truth hanging in the air between them. They'd seen a black woman in an expensive car and made assumptions, and she'd had to pull out proof of her excellence to correct those assumptions. The backup unit drove away. The original officers returned to their patrol car, and Nia sat there for a moment, hands still on the steering wheel, before she could trust herself to drive. She pulled back onto Peachtree Avenue, merging into traffic with hands that trembled now that the performance was over. The radio was still playing the same song. Felt like mockery now. She turned it off, drove in silence. How many times? How many times would she have to prove herself? Medical school. Prove she was smart enough. Residency. Prove she could handle the hours, the pressure, the constant scrutiny. Fellowship. Prove she had the hands, the judgment, the nerve. Chief position. Prove she deserved a lead. And now, on a Saturday morning drive home from saving someone's life, prove she could afford her own damn car. The weight of excellence as armor. If she'd been anything less than chief of neurosurgery, would that traffic stop have ended differently? If her badge had read nurse or administrator or technician, would they have believed the car was hers? She thought about her colleagues, Dr. Morrison with his Tesla, Dr. Chong with her Mercedes, Dr. Kowalski with his vintage Porsche. None of them had ever mentioned being pulled over to verify vehicle ownership. None of them carried their hospital badges in their purses like permission slips. A memory surfaced. Her father's words when she'd gotten her acceptance to medical school. She'd been crying with joy, and he'd hugged her tight before pulling back to look her in the eye. "Baby girl, you're going to have to be twice as good to get half as far. But don't let that make you bitter. Let it make you brilliant." She'd internalized that advice, worn it like armor through every challenge. But sitting in traffic with her hands still shaking, she realized that even brilliance wasn't enough. Even becoming chief wasn't enough. Even saving lives wasn't enough. At that traffic stop, none of it had mattered. They'd seen the car, seen her, and decided she needed to prove ownership. She thought about the patient whose life she'd saved yesterday, about the young resident she'd mentored that morning, helping her perfect a surgical technique, about the research grant she'd just won that would fund breakthrough treatment protocols. None of that had mattered at that traffic stop. All they'd seen was a question that needed answering. How can you afford this? Share this if you know someone who's tired of having to prove their worth. Because Nia's story doesn't end here. 3 days later, the story broke local. Nia hadn't wanted the attention. She'd mentioned the incident to a colleague over coffee, processing out loud. That colleague knew a journalist. The journalist recognized a story that needed telling. Top surgeon question about affording her own car spread faster than Nia could have imagined. The comment sections exploded into warfare. Some defending the officers. They were just doing their job. Others sharing their own stories. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, professors. All stopped, all questioned, all forced to prove they belonged in vehicles they'd earned. A pattern emerged in the testimonials. Excellence didn't erase bias. Sometimes it just made the contrast more obvious. Interview requests flooded in. Morning shows, podcasts, think pieces wanting her perspective. Nia declined them all. She hadn't become a neurosurgeon for publicity. She'd done it to hold people's lives in her hands and give them back their futures. But then her mentee, Dr. Sarah Chun, a second-year resident, knocked on her office door. Sarah was brilliant, hardworking, one of the best young surgeons Nia had ever trained. She was also crying. "Dr. Harrell, when I heard what happened to you, I broke down," Sarah said, "because I thought if I worked hard enough, got good enough, proved myself enough, that this kind of thing wouldn't happen anymore. You showed me I was wrong. But you also showed me I could survive it with dignity intact." That changed Nia's mind. She agreed to one interview, a local morning show that had covered Mercer Hospital's community programs before. She didn't rail against the officers or demand apologies. She didn't play victim or ask for sympathy. Instead, she talked about the invisible tax of constant proving. "I don't want pity," she said, looking directly into the camera. "I want people to understand that bias doesn't care about your credentials. It sees what it expects to see, and you have to work twice as hard just to correct that vision." She talked about her patients who trusted her with their lives, who never questioned whether she belonged in the operating room, about the irony that she could hold someone's brain in her hands with steady precision, but she couldn't drive a nice car without suspicion. The interview resonated, not because it was shocking, but because it was familiar. Within days, community organizations reached out. Would she speak to students? Medical schools invited her to discuss perseverance. She became an accidental advocate, not by seeking the platform, but by refusing to hide her truth. For months later, Nia stood in front of 200 high school students in southwest Atlanta. The auditorium was packed, mostly black and brown faces, young people from neighborhoods where college felt like a distant dream and medical school seemed impossible. She didn't sugarcoat her journey, told them about the 100-hour weeks, the crippling debt, the exhaustion that became her baseline. But she also told them about the traffic stop. "I want you to understand something," she said, her voice carrying to the back row. "Success doesn't erase bias, but it does give you a platform to challenge it." She told them about the teal sedan parked in the school lot right now. Several students had already asked if it was hers when she'd arrived. "I earned that car. I earned it through 15 years of education, 10 years of training, and countless nights wondering if I'd made the right choice. But more importantly, I earned the right to drive it without explanation. So, did you? So will you." She held up her hospital badge, the same one that had changed the traffic stop. "This badge is just plastic and ink. It doesn't define my worth. But on that day, it was my shield. So here's my advice. Build your shields. Education, skills, excellence. These things won't protect you from every injustice, but they'll give you the power to navigate it." A hand shot up near the front. A girl, maybe 16, with her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. "But Dr. Harrell, doesn't make you angry that you have to prove yourself all the time?" Nia paused, considered giving the diplomatic answer, decided on honesty instead. "Every single day," she admitted. "But I refuse to let that anger stop me from moving forward. I channel it. I use it as fuel. Because the alternative, giving up, playing small, accepting their limitations as my own, that would destroy me faster than any bias ever could." After the talk, a line formed. Students waiting to speak with her, to shake her hand, to ask questions about medical school applications and MCAD prep, and whether they were smart enough. One girl, soft-spoken and shy, waited until everyone else had left. "I want to be a surgeon," she whispered. "But my guidance counselor said I should consider more realistic options." Nia pulled out a business card, wrote her personal email on the back. "Send me your grades every semester. I'll help you get there." She made the same offer to 6 more students that day. The teal sedan wasn't just a car anymore. It was a symbol, a reminder that you can't let other people's assumptions determine your destination. 6 months after that traffic stop, Nia still drives the teal sedan, still gets long looks at stoplights, still notices people staring, wondering, questioning. But something fundamental shifted. She stopped caring whether they believed she belonged in it. Her worth isn't up for debate. It's not subject to verification or approval. She knows what she overcame to sit in that driver's seat. The years of doubt, the financial sacrifice, the moment she almost quit, the countless times she had to prove herself when she should have just been allowed to exist. The people who question whether you belong somewhere you've earned the right to be, they're revealing their own limitations, not yours. Nia's story isn't really about one traffic stop. It's about every moment we're asked to prove ourselves beyond what should be necessary. Every time we're questioned not because we've done something wrong, but because our presence challenges someone's assumptions. The student she mentors now, the residents she trains, the patients whose lives she saves, they're her real legacy. The traffic stop was just a reminder of how far there still is to go, but also how far she's already come. From a girl who dreamed of becoming a doctor to a chief of neurosurgery who refuses to shrink, who drives her teal sedan with the windows down and the music up, who carries her worth inside her rather than needing external validation. Her father was right. She did have to be twice as good. She did only get half as far in some ways. But she's also building a ladder for everyone coming behind her. And that's the real victory. Here's what I want to know. What's your teal sedan? What have you earned that others question? What dream are you driving toward despite people asking if you deserve to be in the driver's seat? Drop it in the comments. And if Nia's story resonated, if it reminded you that your worth isn't up for debate, subscribe to Earthly Tales. We're telling stories about people who refuse to let assumptions become limitations. Hit that bell, because next week, we got another story that'll remind you why your dreams are worth the fight. The sun rises over Peachtree Avenue. The street is empty except for one vehicle, a teal sedan moving forward, windows down, driving toward everything it's earned. The road ahead is uncertain, but the driver? Unstoppable.